Good evening, my friends. This is Angie Stewart from Miami InnerLight, here live in Kardec Radio. I'm happy to be here with all of you to continue our study. We do this on a weekly basis. And as I always tell you, Kardec Radio is the best thing in this pandemic time, because we can relax, we can participate of so many beautiful books from so many different people working on it. And I am one of this bunch of wonderful people that bring this joy and knowledge to all of us. So if you're new, this is the book we always study. What? Among Brothers of Other Lands. We also study this beautiful book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. What? The Gospel According to Spiritism from Allan Kardec. So welcome everybody. I hope my sound is fine. Hopefully it's everything good. We're not having technical difficulties. If you are watching this directly on Facebook, I cannot see your names because we are using a different tool. If you comment something, then I will be able to see your names and to read your questions or your comments. So please, you're welcome to write so we can interact a little bit more. Another thing, I always like to tell people to have a bottle of water or a glass of water, because we initiate with a prayer and we end with a prayer. And I had invited you all a long time ago to every day at 10 p.m. to stop for 1 minute only, so we can pray for our beautiful planet together. And you know, when you are united with a lot of other people of a good hearts, we can vibrate much stronger and much more powerful. So we can really give some protection to our planet and also to all of us. Okay, so let's just relax. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes for 1 minute and then we can pray together. Almighty God, our Mother and Father, again we are here tonight together to study these beautiful teachings that our Master Jesus brought us. And we have been always struggling to understand, but we are here inspired by the good spirits, doing our best to be able to continue this task. And one day we will be much more enlightened people, much more forgiving and loving, following correctly the steps of our dear Master Jesus. Please stay with us, inspiring us, protecting and guiding. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good. Very good. Nobody is complaining about the sound, so I think it is working. Let me just see if it is live here. I think it's good. Very good. So let's go. Today we are gonna study chapter 31st. It is the longest chapter until now. It has 2, 4, 5 pages. So we usually study 2 pages. Last time we read 4 and now it's 5. So let's see how it's going to be. If it gets too long, then we can do half today and we can do the other half next week. And if possible, maybe we can do everything today and we just don't do the gospel. But I don't want to rush because it's very special text. So let's see how it's going to be, okay? So as usually, I read everything and then I go back commenting little by little. So feel comfortable to write any questions, because when I finish, I will take a look. Very good. So let's go. Chapter 31st. The title is 20 Questions with Gabriel Delanne. And the author is the spirit Andre Luiz. So this is like Andre Luiz is in the spiritual realm, and he is interviewing Gabriel Delanne. So who was Gabriel Delanne? Gabriel Delanne is a French writer, and a curiosity, he was born 1 month after Allan Kardec launched the Spirit's book. Yeah, so he was born in 1857. His father was a personal friend of Allan Kardec, and his mother was a writing medium, automatic writing medium. So, his family was very connected to Spiritism. They really had this knowledge. Imagine you have the connection with Kardec himself. So basically, Gabriel Delanne grew up with his family very involved with Allan Kardec. So he met him personally. I can just imagine him running in the house of Allan Kardec. Can you imagine this? So interesting. So he grew up with this knowledge from his father, his mother, Kardec himself, and he became one of the biggest names in Spiritism after Kardec's death. So he was like one that was working really hard, also with Leon Denis. So this is a man that has a lot of knowledge. He is now in the spiritual realm, and Andre Luiz, that is a spirit that we all know very well. He is the author of the book Nosso Lar and many, many other books like Messengers, Missionaries of the Light, so many others. So Andre Luiz is going to interview him. So let's see how are going to be the questions. And if you want, you can put comments or you can make questions. And hopefully I will know how to answer. If I don't, I will research and I will answer next week. So let's go. Gabriel Delanne, one of the most distinguished continuers of Allan Kardec's work, was present at our meeting tonight. And we respectfully ask him the following questions. 1. Dear friend, we would like to put ourselves in the position of our brothers and sisters still incarnated on earth, to ask you some very important questions for them still in the physical body. Do you go in your spiritist action of other times? Do you go on in your spiritist action of other times, despite of residing now beyond the earth? And he answered, yes, as much as it is possible, within my reduced possibilities. 2. What do you tell us about Spiritism in France? We cannot say that it was achieved the ideal level. 3. Since France is Allan Kardec's birthplace, would it be allowed to ask the reason for this? We cannot forget that France suffered in the last 100 years the load of 3 great wars that inflicted suffering, terrible suffering, and trials. 4. Do you think that this has delayed the march of Spiritism? By no means. Groups of friends that belong to the work of Allan Kardec reincarnated not only in France, but also in other countries, especially in Brazil, to hold up the Kardashian building. 5. Do you believe that Europe will resume the direction of the Spiritist movement? Before anything else, we must consider that Europe nowadays seems to be a vast field of ideological war that is far away from finishing. 6. Do you admit that the Spiritist principles are walking slowly in the world? No, I don't think so. The Spiritist activities started a little more than a century ago, and 1 century is too short period of time in the subject of spirit. 7. Many friends on earth think that the messengers of superior spirituality should sponsor larger manifestations of the mediumship of physical effects for the benefit of men, such as materializations and direct voices. What do you think about it? I believe that the mediumship of physical effects serves to persuasion, but it does not help the indispensable service of a spiritual renovation. The superior spirits act correctly in pruning the outbreaks of the motivations, so that the human beings, our brothers and sisters, wake up to the light of the Spiritist doctrine, giving to their conscience the effort of the moral improvement. Very good answer. Very, very good answer. So let's make good comments on number 7. Number 8. Although you have this opinion, do you think that Spiritism needs to perfect and increase mediumship? We would not have the gospel without Jesus Christ, and we would not have Jesus Christ without the help to the suffering souls by the mediumistic processes that characterized his presence on earth. Very good answer too. So we have to comment good in this too. The earthly science of today shows itself avid of contacts with other worlds, and for this reason, wouldn't it be interesting if the spirits gave descriptions of life in other planets through many mediums? This is useful once the problem is considered in its fair dimensions. Communicating spirits can describe to humanity prodigies, cities, and advanced social systems in the terms of matter, being different from the one that it is shown, measured and weighted on the earth. Even with the most advanced instruments, human beings only see a tiny part of the universe. Number 10. To what reason should we contribute this restriction? To what reason should we attribute this restriction? To the structure of human eye made to support only a determined portion of observation of life in itself. So this was number 10. Let me see. In total, they are 20 in total. So let's stop here. Let's make comments. Then let's check the time. And then we can see if we can continue today or next time. So please, again, feel free to write any comments, make any questions. We are using a different platform today, so I'm not seeing if your name is just on Facebook. So write anything if you want me to see you. So let me just say hello to the ones who already wrote here. Hello, Matthew. How are you? Nora, Brazil. Very nice to have you here again. Narciso Thomas, Sol Souza, Carla. Hello, Carla Marques, my friend. Sylvia. Silvia Beltran Otero. She said, hello, my friend. Thank you. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you for being here. And my friend, Teresa Castro. Hello, Teresa. Very good. So as I mentioned before, this is the spirit of Andre Luiz, who is in a spiritual meeting when he meets personally Gabriel Delanne, who was one of these very important spiritists from the time of Kardec. So he was born in the year of 1857 when the Spirit's book was launched by Kardec. So he has a lot of knowledge in spiritism. And Andre Luiz, that's really like a good reporter, is interviewing him, asking questions about many things that he thinks about spiritism related to nowadays. So just to let you know, this interview was done in Paris in 1965. So it's relatively new. You know, when we talk about spiritism, everything is from the 1800s, but the interview itself was done in 1965. Yes, we are in 2020. It was not done yesterday, but is much more recent. So here we see Andre Luiz goes to him, and the first question he asks him if he is able to dedicate a lot of his time going to Earth to talk about, to do things related to spiritism. And he says, do you go in your spiritist action of other times, despite of residing now beyond the Earth? So beyond the Earth. So it implies he is not a spirit connected to the planet Earth anymore. That's very interesting. So he might live in higher spheres. As we know that is not every single person that was reincarnated on Earth that still lives on Earth. Just as a curiosity, we know the spirit of Mozart. He reincarnated on Earth, but he was already from a different planet, much more evolved than Earth. So he might live in another planet too. So he answers, yes, as much as possible with my reduced possibilities. Because we know when the spirits, they evolved, they have bigger tasks. They have things that are broader, more important. And it also relates to us, but in a different way that sometimes we can't understand yet. Then the second question. What do you tell us about Spiritism in France? And then he says, we cannot say that it has achieved the ideal level. So when we study Spiritism and when we read, especially when we read the Spiritist magazine that was translated nowadays to Spiritist Review, Spiritist Review, it really tells the daily tasks of Kardec, his daily mediumship meetings, everything that happened through the mediumship meetings. And there, Kardec also explains of how many hundreds of spiritist centers existed. They existed in the house of the people, and some of them had actually proper locations, but they were hundreds, and not just in Paris, but all over France, all over Europe. So for us nowadays, when we think about Spiritism in Europe, especially in Paris, that's the city where Allan Kardec really worked so hard, and we think like the Spiritism there is so minimal. It's much smaller than what it was in the 1800s. You feel like, what happened? Why it went backwards? Last week, I watched a beautiful documentary with many very good people that studied deeply Spiritism, and they were talking exactly about it. I put it on my Facebook. The only problem is everything is in Portuguese. It was like 2 hours, but it was very beautiful. All of them talking about all the difficulties that the Kardec was facing in that time, how much he dedicated himself, especially when was closer to the end of his life. The spirits came to him and said, slow down. You need to slow down in order to your body to be able to sustain you for more time. But Kardec, I think Kardec was like very hard head. He couldn't slow down because in his mind, it's like, I still have so much to do. I have so much to accomplish and I need to work even harder so I can finish this. So he really didn't slow down and his body felt it, unfortunately. But he was able to complete so much, and his wonderful wife, Amélie Boudet, she was the one responsible for taking care of the Spiritist doctrine when he died. But imagine, this was in the 1800s, and unfortunately, if women had a lot of still have a lot of difficulties nowadays getting same salaries, same jobs as men. Imagine in that time when the society was extremely macho, when the society was really guided by men, when only men were the ones who really could be scholars, who could be teaching, who could be leading a lot of people. Amélie Boudet also was a woman ahead of her time, but the prejudice of the society was very big, so it was very difficult for her to be able to continue his work. And she was also older. She was not a young chick anymore. So, you know, when the age comes, many things get a little bit complicated. So he starts talking about that it didn't achieve the level they imagined, the level they wanted. So in the third question, Andre Luiz asks, so since France is Allan Kardec's birthplace, would it be allowed to ask the reason for this? Like why Kardec was born in France and why Spiritism didn't get the power that they imagined. And then he answers, we cannot forget that France suffered in the last 100 years the load of 3 great wars that inflicted terrible suffering and trials. So yes, imagine our situation now. We are living, wherever you are, I am in the United States, I am in Miami, maybe you are in Brazil, maybe you are in Europe. We are living our lives normal, but then a pandemic arrived and changed things upside down. So everything we were doing, we had to change it. Maybe we changed it slightly, but maybe we had to change it a lot. And the pandemic made us to stay in our houses. We are safe. We are still safe. We still have our homes, even if a lot of people are struggling to survive because maybe they lost their jobs, maybe they got sick. So there are many uncertainties right now. But imagine if we were living through war. Imagine living in France through war, trying to spread Spiritism, but then war happens. And then you are being bombarded. You are in your house, and suddenly your house can just disappear. The whole city can disappear. So your mind is not really thinking more about that because you are in survival mode. So imagine this was constantly happening. France was involved in many wars, not just the big wars, the World War I and II, but many other little wars they were related to. So there is a lot of difficulties because of that. So this is one of the things we can understand. there are so many other intangibles that I mentioned. Amélie Boudet had to take care of it alone. Then she asked for help of one of Kardec's good friends, not Gabriel Delanne, another person that she trusted, him and his wife, but unfortunately they became like a betrayers of Spiritism, because after she really gave him all the books, she gave this person so many information to continue Spiritism, he started creating his own ideas, kind of deforming Spiritism, creating things that Kardec never really accepted. So he started changing what was really correct, the correct way that Kardec did, because Kardec was so rational. So many times if you read the Spirit's book, it's actually funny, because he asks one question, the Spirit's answer, and then like 2 or 3 questions later, he asks a question very similar in different ways, very similar, and then the Spirit said, I already answered it. But it's almost like, okay, you did, but I would like to know if it was like this. So he slightly changed just to be sure that would be really the correct answer. And then his wife starts seeing things to be so changed and disturbed, not disturbed. They were modified. So it was a very difficult time for her. So we have to understand this. The war and the many other things affected this Spiritism. And then number 4, do you think that this has delayed the march of Spiritism? And he answers, by no means. Groups of friends that belong to the work of Allan Kardec reincarnated, not only in France, but also in other countries, especially in Brazil, to hold up Kardecian building. So this is very interesting, because I remember Chico Xavier and Divaldo Franco. Divaldo Franco especially, he already commented in many of his lectures that when after Kardec's death, there were a lot of turbulence in France, a lot of turbulence regarding religion. Imagine in that time that he was alive in Spain, they burned. The church still had so much power. So the Catholic Church burned the books of Spiritism in Barcelona. So the whole Europe was really aware of this prejudice and also danger. A lot of people died because they were Spiritists. Amazing. Nowadays, you know, we can say this still has prejudice. Yes, we all know that. We all know there is a lot of prejudice, unfortunately. Yes, prejudice of color, prejudice of religion, prejudice of many different types. But nowadays it's more controlled. It's not so extreme like this. We saw this one person died, and it was filmed. So it made this uproar in the whole country. It's almost like to waking up what was sleeping. It's like a prejudice still exists, but everybody makes like a veiled acceptance, more or less, if I can explain myself. But now internet also is good for this, because nowadays it's very difficult for you to do something bad and to be hidden. In the past, it was very easy. In the past, we didn't have cameras filming and posting on social media. So yes, I always say that social media disturbed a lot of things. Deturpar, that's the word I want to say. I don't know how to say this in English. But they slightly change certain things to the worst, but there is always something good. And this was good for us to have, is like a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to see, yes, prejudice still exists and is so painful. So we really need to stop it. It's time for us to make our children to understand that we cannot be like this. And yes, it's very easy for me to say it because I am not Black. So the prejudice for me is not the same. Even if I'm Latino, and there is also prejudice, but it's so much smaller than other types of prejudice. Wrapping up, coming back to religion, there is still prejudice in religion nowadays. So imagine in that time. So Divaldo said there was so much turbulence in France that they really couldn't keep up Spiritism in France in the correct way anymore. So they just gave time to time. So they really waited for this big Spiritist people that were involved in Spiritism in that time in France to die. Also, the oppositors of Spiritism, they were extremely against Spiritism. They also waited for them to die and to start all over in a different atmosphere. So they say, Divaldo Franco says, the spirits told him that lots of these French people were moved to Brazil, to reincarnate in Brazil. So what is Brazil? Brazil is South America. Brazil is basically a salad because we had already the indigenous people living there. Then we had the Portuguese, the Europeans who went there to conquer the country. Then we had the Africans who were brought to Brazil. Then later on, we had more Europeans after the slavery, more Europeans that were brought to Brazil to continue the work in the many farms they had there, because now they're going to be paid people. So they brought the people from Germany, from many other countries to work in the fields. So imagine all these different ethnicities, different countries with their own culture, with their own characteristics, with their own beliefs, went to Brazil, and they made this a soup. So we became like this mixed bunch of people. And because of this, was much more accepting, even if, yes, of course, there was prejudice also, but it was more accepting, didn't have so much power of a church in a certain aspects. So Brazilians were more like how we say nowadays that we are the people that always find a jeitinho. Jeitinho is like we find ways of doing certain things that maybe are not the strict way, but we find like ways around it. And of course, it can be done in a good way or it can be done in a bad way. But because of this, made the Spiritism to flourish in Brazil. Because all these minds that reincarnated there, they didn't have this extreme, gigantic, strong opposition from church. So it started flourishing. So that's why it expanded so much and so much faster in Brazil. And yes, nowadays Brazil is the biggest country in the world that knows Spiritism. So this is interesting for us. Deturpar, misrepresent. Yes, very good, Carla. Yes. That's what I wanted to say. When Émilie Boudet couldn't keep the Spiritism how it was, and then this man that I forgot his name misinterpret what Kardec wanted. So let's continue. Number 6. Do you admit that the Spiritist principles are walking slowly in the world? Oh, wait, this one is this is the one I read? No, 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 no. Oh, I think I have to read number 6. Do you believe, don't even know which one I read. Do you believe that Europe will resume I think there's two ones. Number 5. Do you believe that Europe will resume the direction of the Spiritist movement? And he answers, before anything else, we must consider that Europe nowadays seems to be a vast field of ideological war that is far away from finishing. So what he's saying that right now, France is going in a turmoil in that moment, but it's still now. It's going in a turmoil over other ideological ideas. So it is difficult for the whole country to settle down in order to be able to really absorb Spiritism and expand it. So that's his point of view of the situation. Number 6. Do you admit that the Spiritist principles are walking slowly in the world? Meaning, do you think the Spiritism is being spread in a very slow way in the world? And he said, no, I don't think so. The Spiritist activities start a little more than a century ago, and 1 century is too short period of time in the subject of spirit. Yes, imagine 1 century, 100 years. 100 years is 1 lifetime nowadays. Yes, in the past, people lived very short lives. They lived 30 years, 40 years, you are already like a very old woman. But nowadays, with the developments of the medicine, the medications, and physical treatments, so we are living much longer. People are living even more than 100 years. So in 1 lifetime, it's not enough for really to spread something. It is improving, but it's really a short period of time. But we imagine in 1 lifetime, especially Chico Xavier in Brazil, he was the person responsible for really exploding Spiritism in Brazil. Because first of all, he was extremely loving. He was a person that's so sweet and humble. And when he started psychographing hundreds of different authors, and he went to a TV show, that's the moment when Spiritism really exploded. When Chico Xavier went to a super popular TV show, and he gave an interview that was supposed to be 1 hour, and they kept him there for almost 4 hours. And it was so extremely popular that they called him to come back again. And they brought to this interview, this TV show was called Pinga Fogo. It's very famous. If you Google in the internet, you will see Pinga Fogo. It's a TV show in black and white in Portuguese. But the questions they were asking him, they were amazing. And they brought people, they were against the Spiritism to question him. So he was really nervous of going because he knew there were going to be a priest, there's going to be a pastor, are going to be people that do not believe in anything, and they are going to be all questioning him. But his answers were so amazing that even people that did not believe in any religion, they were like, wow, this man is different. So this is the moment that everybody paid attention to that TV show, and everybody starts like, I want to know more about this Spiritism this man is talking about. So this was like a epitaku, how do I say, epiphany in Spiritism in Brazil when Chico went to this TV show. And of course, nowadays, because of globalization, we have people going everywhere. And because the Spiritism is so strong and powerful in Brazil, we have Brazilians going all over the planet, and they are all opening their little places. You know, I'm Brazilian. I got together with some other friends, but I am focused in English. I was always focused in English. So I got together with other friends, Americans, with open-minded, and they are spiritualists, so they are open to the spiritist ideas. So we have a group that we study, and of course internet is a blessing, so we can also talk directly to you in your house. We don't need to physically meet anymore, even if I love physically meeting with people. But internet really helped us to spread the word. So I am in Miami. I'm sure there are people here in Brazil, people in other countries, people that will be able to listen to this recorded in Kardec radio, in wherever they are. So this is a blessing. This is a blessing to all of us. So number 7. Many friends on earth think that the messengers of the superior spirituality should sponsor larger manifestations of mediumship of physical effects for the benefit of men, such as materializations and direct voices. What do you think about it? So this mediumship is very rare. First of all, it's rare because it requires a medium with a very strong mediumship that can donate a lot of ectoplasm. Yes, ectoplasm like the Ghostbusters. Yes, we all have ectoplasm. So it's not every person, it's not every medium that can do that. Requires a special medium. So imagine from 100, maybe one person has this characteristic. So when the medium will do materializations, it's required the light to be dark. The medium has to be in trance, has to be a lot of silence. But most important thing is that everybody present in that meeting has to be vibrating love in faith of what will happen. The spirits say if there is one person in that meeting that thinks, I don't think this is right, or I don't believe this is really going to happen, or maybe he's a charlatan. Any of this type of thoughts is enough to break the energy, and worse, is enough to bring a danger to the medium. Yes, a physical danger to the medium. Because if the vibration is not a good vibration, if it starts oscillating like this with the thought of one mind only, it can bring dematerialization of the physical body of the medium. Can you imagine this? So it's very serious. And that's why this type of meetings usually are very rare, and they have a very small amount of people, because the people present really, 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 the people have to trust them 100% to not put the life of the medium at risk. And the other characteristic that he talks here is, let me see what it is the direct voice phenomena. Direct voice phenomena is not, for example, I am a medium. It's not me talking with my voice. It's a voice that will be projected in the whole room. Whoever is in the room will hear it, and it's not going to come from the mouth of anyone. It's really almost like a physical mouth that's going to be created in the room. A microphone, you talk. It's like a speaker It's like a physical speaker that is going to be fluidically created in the room, and everybody will be able to listen. That this is a direct voice phenomena. Also requires a special medium who will be able to donate ectoplasm for, so this direct voice phenomena can work. So let's see his answer. I believe that the mediumship of physical effects serve to persuasion. Serve to persuasion, meaning, yes, this mediumship is good to convince certain people, but it does not help the indispensable service of spiritual renovation. Spiritual renovation. The superior spirits act correctly in pruning the outbreaks of the motivations so that the human beings, our brothers and sisters, wake up to the light of the Spiritist doctrine, giving to their conscience the effort of the moral improvement. So what he's basically saying is that yes, it's very good if we could bring some materialization, some direct voice phenomena, because this could really impress some people, and they could be like, whoa, yeah, maybe this is really right. Because when we read about the materialization, it's so special. You see from the nose of the medium, the mouth, the ears, you see this white, almost like a liquid, this white vapor substance coming out and going somewhere and materializing someone or something. There are some meetings that the people talk about seeing hands, and there are meetings that they talk, they saw heads. There are meetings that they took pictures. They were shown in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City when I was living there, and that shows the medium like basically in trance, sleeping like this. So you see the liquid coming out of his mouth, sometimes going to the back, and a spirit hugging the medium or right next to the medium. And this was one of the phenomena that was being able to take pictures of. But what Delanne is saying that yes, even if materialization, direct voices are very, very good, that it will impress some people, it might be able to convince some. This is not the purpose of Spiritism. Spiritism don't want to convince people because they saw something. It's almost like the disciples of Jesus, and we had the famous disciple that said to everybody, oh, you all saw him, but I didn't. And I'm only going to be able to believe when I touch him. And then Jesus had to appear to him, give his hand with the hole, and told him, touch me. And then he touched, and he said, Master, I believe you. And then Jesus said, yes, you believe me because you touch me. But the good are the ones who believed without seeing or touching. So this is basically what we want in Spiritism. We want people, first of all, we want people to understand the mediumship phenomena. We want people to understand the possibilities of a reincarnation. So the Kardec codification brings us this understanding. It's not more this blind faith. Oh, I believe because Angie said so. No, it's not a blind faith anymore. I believe because I understand. There are thousands of questions and answers in the Spirit book. There are wonderful stories in the Gospel. If you read Heaven and Hell, there are many, many cases of spirits that came back to tell you how they were living, how they suffered, and how they are right now. So this makes us to have this understanding of Spiritism. And another thing that Spiritism really wants, Spiritism really wants us to change, wants us to improve our moral qualities. We know we all are going to evolve intellectually. The spirits tell us the intellect develops faster and first, and the moral qualities come a little bit slow, unfortunately, and they come later. So this is what the Spiritist wants us to be able to reform ourselves, change ourselves, improve ourselves. And then we will be able, with the rationalized faith, to understand. So we believe because we understand it. So that's what he said. And it's 9:54. Can you believe it? 9:54. Oh my God, I'm not going to even have time to read the gospel. Let's see if we can at least finish something here. Number 8. Although you have this opinion, do you think that the Spiritism needs to perfect and increase mediumship? We would not have the gospel without Jesus Christ, and we would not have Jesus Christ without the help to the suffering spirits by the mediumistic processes that characterized his presence on earth. So basically he's saying, yes, the mediumship phenomena is extremely helpful and important. So we know in time of Jesus, there were a lot of mediums. There were mediums forever. As soon as human being was created, mediumship was created. So we know the many cases that Jesus cured a lot of people. They were also obsessed people, obsessed by spirits, sometimes obsessed by many spirits. There was a spirit that Jesus went to talk to him. I'm sorry. I believe one of the disciples went to talk and went to pray for this person. And they said, who are you? Because do you know who he is? But you, I don't know. And we are not going to get out of him because of you. And then the disciple went to Jesus, said, Jesus, I tried, but I can't. And then Jesus said, of this type, I have to take care. And that's when Jesus went there and imposed his hand and told them, get out of him. And then he said, the spirit basically said, we are legion. Legion is a legion of spirits. There are many spirits. Many spirits were obsessing this man. So when Jesus told them, leave him, and of course, with his immense loving energy, he was able to remove the spirits from this man who was actually having cataleptic issues. They left him, and he was able to recover his conscience. And many other types, many others. There is the case of the curved woman that Jesus cured on Sabbath, that all the other people, they were extremely angry with him because he cured someone during Sabbath and is forbidden. And then Jesus said, don't you give water and food to your donkey on Sabbath? Why can't I give life to this woman who is suffering for so many years? So there are many, many different cases that we can see in the New Testament, in the Bible. And these were cases of mediumship. So mediumship is important. The mediumship of Chico Xavier brought us 400, nowadays I think it's 455 books, because even after the death of Chico Xavier, they were able to collect many of his scraped papers, because wherever he went, he grabbed a little a little napkin, and he wrote thoughts, or he wrote like messages. So imagine, because of his mediumship, we have so many beautiful books. We have all the collections of the books of the spirit of Andre Luiz. We have the amazing collection of the spirit of Emmanuel. Then we have Divaldo Franco with the amazing books from Joana de Angelis and many other spirits. And then we have the thousands of mediums like me, very simple mediums that are able to communicate with the spirits, and they are able to understand their sufferings. Then we understand, yes, there is life after death. There is life after death. I remember my son, like a few weeks ago, talking to some people on the internet, and the person was asking him a question, and I heard him saying, yes, of course I believe. I believe because I have a mother who is a medium, and I have seen some of the tough spirits that she channels. And and then I was like, whoa, he was born in a spiritist center, because I have been going to spiritist center before I got pregnant, of course. Then he was there since he was a little baby. But yes, for him to see this phenomena happening few times, this really was like imprinted in him. And he's like, I know this is true because my mother is not such a good actress. Anyway, so we know how mediumship is important and how much light it brings to all of us. So yes, it will continue bringing a lot of light to us. So we stopped on number 8. So next time I will start from number 9, and hopefully we can finish. So my friends, it's 10 p.m. right now, and we have to do our prayer for our planet. And then if there is any comment, then I can read. So let's get together right now, close our eyes, and let's vibrate for our beautiful blue planet, for everybody that lives here, so we can shed some light, we can bring some light to all the turmoils that we are living. Okay? Dear God, Jesus, our brother, Mother Mary, at this moment we would like to ask you for your protection, your guidance, your love. We all, your children, living here on earth, still struggling with whatever is good, whatever is bad. We have good days and bad days. We still full of problems, full of issues, but we are here falling down, but standing up and trying to improve on a daily basis. And at this moment, we ask you to share your loving light with all of us, not just us in the United States, but all of us in all the countries around the world who are suffering so much, not just because of the pandemic, but because of violence, because of rebellions, because of suffering, of prejudice, of hatred, of hunger, of so many problems, Mother Mary. And we are here asking you to help us, to give us the strength to be able to stand up and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and believe that we can do something to improve the world, even if just a little bit of improvement in ourselves. So please stay with us. Help us to continue with our faith strong, and also help us to come back here again next week to continue this study and our personal improvements. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good, my friends. It was great being here with you. This chapter is very long, but it's a beautiful interview. I think it's very powerful. And even if we couldn't finish as much as I wanted, some questions are so important that we have to go through details. So it makes us to have a little bit of more knowledge here and there. So please, if you want to know anything about those that I already answered, let me know. Send me a message. I'm going to post some information about Gabriel Delanne in our Facebook page, Miami InnerLight. And I think it will be good for you to understand a little bit about his life too. So thank you so much for being here. Drink your medication, and I hope to see you soon, next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.